What is up, everybody? Happy pre-patch day. Dragonflight is over, and we got some gameplay here for you here. So I have been studying the art of the pre-patch and the beta, and I got a guide already. Look at that, didn't even come out yet. So I got a guide for y'all for Resto Druid, and I'm showing you some talent builds that you can test out and how things have changed gameplay wise. There's not much, but there are subtle things that if you choose these talents, it will change your gameplay. There are ways that you could play exactly the same if you do choose to choose those talents, but I'm gonna give you guys a couple of different builds that I've come up with. I have a cat based one, I call it Boomy, but it's like a caster damage based one, and then a one that you don't care about damage whatsoever. So kind of more of a, maybe like a solo shuffle. I don't even want to say solo shuffle because I think damage is so high that you actually want to do a little bit of damage, but a build that has no damage whatsoever for you, okay? So we're going to start off first with the cat form one. So reminder, you do not have hero talents for this pre-patch, okay? So we're just going to have the new trees, all right? And the class tree has changed substantially with a lot of talents, and the spec tree hasn't changed much. I'll get into that there. I'm going to try to keep this quick because it's a lot of I could go on and on about. But a lot of these builds are completely optimizable, man. Do not just take this, you know, I would, even myself, man, I would take this and experiment with different talents. I still want to experiment with different talents. So this is my base cat form build that I've come up with. Some highlights: we have feline swiftness for the movement speed, maim, obviously, kick, bash. Heart of the Wild. Heart of the Wild is much better nowadays because if you combine it with Call the Elder Druid, which is was the old hero talent or the PvP talent, with procs every once a minute, and now the new talent driven scenario, so your Heart of the Wild transfers wrath and shred damage into healing. It is not as crazy as people think. And thinking twos, which I really didn't get a chance to accurately test twos on the beta, it actually may be pretty crazy in twos, but in threes and solo shuffle, it's not game breaking. So, and people that were freaking out about that. But it is a really nice thing to have if you are pairing that with Heart of the Wild. And solo shuffle, I think Heart of the Wild is always worth it because the rounds are, you know, from 1 to 3 minutes a lot of the times, and a 45-second ability is very strong in that. And also not just the cat form here. We also want to make sure that we're going down to Lore of the Grove. I think you should have this in every single build that you play. It is 10% Moonfire damage, which we don't have auto cast Moonfires yet. That's going to be the Keeper of the Grove hero talents, but Moonfire does so much damage already, as you all know from the previous season. And this also gives you rejuve healing, so it's you know, you double dip it on that, and you actually get to take Rising Light Falling Night for increased damage and healing. You can opt to swap a couple things here. All right, so Natural Cure, if you don't need Curse to spell, you have an extra point here. You can throw it into Typhoon into certain maps that maybe you can get a knock. You can go into opt for more defensiveness for the Well-Honed Instincts or Oak Skin. You can try out, I was actually thinking about trying out Forest Walk for more speed, because you pretty much always have Regrowth on yourself, so it gives you 6 seconds of increased movement speed, which is kind of nice. You can go for the range. You get the point. You can customize this a lot, okay? But I just want to give you a base template that you can work off of, okay? Going into the spec tree on this one here, the talents really did not change at all. There's two, so Convoke I'm testing. I think Convoke is probably not going to be worth it 99% of the time, because if there are any pets in the field, you should play Incarn. I gotta still see how Convoke is, because they said that they increased the amount of like main spells that it was gonna cast, so like Ferocious Bite for cat form, and they buffed Ferocious Bite as well. So they took off the modifier, I should say, at least. So I'll kind of test it, but for the most part, Incarn's going to be a much better pick, even for damage, okay? Because now that you have Master Shapeshifter, now affects tree form, okay? Because there's no more Moonkin form. That's a big thing that's not in here anymore. There's no more Moonkin form, so you're getting the increased Wrath, Starfire, Star Surge damage just from even tree form, and it gives you mana. It's about 1.5% of your mana every time you cast one of those spells. So you're in tree form, you're spamming Wrath over and over and over again, you're getting so much mana and doing crazy damage and potential healing at the same time if you have Heart of the Wild up. So really good Incarn. I'm still gonna test Convoke, especially in twos, but anything but twos, Incarn is 100% the best, okay? And the last thing I want to show you guys is this new talent, Prosperity. Prosperity versus Verdant Infusion. VI is what we already have. You extend your hots when you press Swiftmend, but Prosperity is interesting because now it gives you 2 charges of Swiftmend. So you're not, it does consume the hot though, okay? So it's kind of going back to the old school version of Swiftmend, back in like Wrath, I think it was, before they added that glyph. and it changes your gameplay in a way that I really like, actually, because you're getting more Swiftmends. The reason I like this is you're getting more Swiftmen. Swiftmen does a substantial amount of healing now, and you're triggering your reforestation tree procs way more often. Okay, literally twice as fast you're getting tree procs. So the uptime of when your tree form is really high uptime, that means your damage is going to be really high uptime, and you're going to have those instant growths, those instant regrowths, those instant roots. Just being in tree form is so important because it's also just a baseline 15% healing. Everything kind of comes together in that. I think some people will still opt to take VI, but I was really enjoying Prosperity for that double Swiftman. And when we get to the gameplay section here, I'm going to show you how I optimized using Swiftman like this. Okay, so that is going to be my cat form talents. Everything else has been pretty much the same as what I've played in Dragonflight. Okay, moving on to the next one here. I'm going to talk about PvP talents at the end too. So Boomy here, for the Boomy, again, no Boom can form anymore, but I just called it Boomy just because. For the class tree here, there are, again, a couple swap points that you could swap. Feline Swiftness I put in there. You can put it in Nature's Grace. But you want to make sure you obviously have Star Surge. You want to make sure you have Starlight Conduit, which is 5% damage and reduces the cooldown and the mana cost of Star Surge. Okay, 6-second cooldown, Star Surge, instant cast, 1.5% mana, pretty decent damage. Really powerful. Okay, the sucky thing about playing still wanting to prioritize this damage is you do still most likely want Bash, and to take Bash you got to take Shred and Swipe, Mangle damage 2 points into this, which is really rough, but you got to do what you got to do, man. And again, you can flex a lot of these points. You can drop Rake Stun. I don't recommend ever dropping Rake Stun, but you could drop Nature's Cure and take some more of the defensive stuff over here. So there's a couple things that you could do on this to kind of optimize it. But again, those make sure that you do have is Star Surge, Starlight Conduit, and obviously again Lore of the Grove, and everything else is pretty much the same. And when it comes to the other tree here, I would just drop Convoke of the Spirits because there is no Moon Conform Convoke anymore. So you're either going to Cat Form Convoke or you're going to Convoke to heal. If you do like a Human Form Convoke, it's not that bad. Like you typically will throw out 2 or 3 Wraths on top of the damage, on top of the healing that it does. So it's not entirely that bad, but I don't think it compares to the buff of Incarn. Just again, I'm not going to read it myself. You get way more damage, way more healing, way more CC. You don't have to cast. Everything's better with tree form. Okay. And then the last build here is going to be the no damage build. So this is I haven't played this myself personally. I was just trying to think of something because I know people always ask like, what if you don't want to do damage? What can you do? So this is something that I just kind of threw together to think about like what people would want to have in like let's say like a new to Druid solo shuffle. You just want to heal. You don't want to do anything else. So on this side here, the difference is that I did opt to drop all of the damage talents over here. Did still want that increased range. Opted to take Innervate and Well-Honed Instincts to kind of have like a fallback if you get swapped to it or whatever. You could the reason I still left Heart of the Wild in there because I think Heart of the Wild does still have a benefit in terms of having 45 seconds of fast cast clones, and you get the increased bear form health and double frenzy regen. So I think it's still worth it to take. People might ask about shit, I forgot to talk about fluid form in the cat form stuff. I don't recommend myself. If it's an extra bind for me and it makes it more confusing, that's why I don't take it. But that's why I do not use fluid form. But yes. Okay, and then going down to the spec tree here, there's probably only 1-2 points here you could flex around if you'd like. So I opted to go for Budding Leaves and Reforestation, so you have all of the tree form stuff still, and opted for Prosperity as well, just for, again, that faster reforestations. So you're getting way more of those procs. Excuse me. But the one talent you could switch around is this one here. I opted to still put Master Shapeshifter in this build, just simply because of the mana. When you're in tree form and you have downtime, you just throw out Wraths and you're just regenerating your own mana. And I think that's so important. Like, I think that outweighs liveliness now. At this point, even if you don't want to do damage, like the mana regen is so powerful. Theoretically, if you press tree form and you did not need to heal at all and your team was just fine and you spammed Wrath the entire time, you will regain over 50% of your mana. So just keep that in mind. And even like these tree procs, you might not need the tree proc at the time, but again, just crazy mana regen, right? All right, so that is it for the talent side of things. The PvP talents, only one thing is going to change. You're gonna keep preserve nature for the train community. You're gonna keep focus growth, but this third point is now going to be a pretty nice flex point. Well, it kind of already was, but for me it wasn't because I played Oath of the Elder Druid all the time. But now you have a flex point here, so you can opt to take Tireless Pursuit, which I love playing with, like especially the cat form build, and even anything with damage I like to play. Me personally, I like always playing it. But the other points that you may take, so High Winds is now different. High Winds is now 5% range on your Clone, Typhoon, and Roots, which could be pretty dang important, especially in Shuffle if you do versing like melee and you want to stay out of the fight as much as possible, and you're combining that with Astral Influence. Really long range on Cyclone, 30-yard range now I think with that. Right, 25, yeah, it would be 30-yard range. The other alternatives is Reactive Resin, obviously the same thing we've had. I personally hate this. I think it's so dumb. I think the only thing it's really useful into is Arcane Mage, or like, yeah, really Arcane Mage, because every other class just purges once every couple seconds, or like Greater Purge for Shamans, so it doesn't really ever feel that worth it. And you also have Thorns, so this is kind of a flex point. You can kind of do what you like with it. So there you go there. Okay, now to the gameplay part of it. So I want to show you two different things really quick. So in terms of damage, things are just slightly different. And even if you don't want to prioritize damage, like you're not like quote unquote playing super aggro, this is going to be something that you kind of have to get in the mindset of changing, is at least throw out Star Surges. Okay, reminder, those Star Surges, if you have Heart of the Wild up, are going to actually they don't heal, I lied, it's for Wrath heals, but it's just a lot of mana regen. If you can get in the habit, it's kind of like playing Disc Priest Powered Solace, what they used to have, and you kind of had to get used to constantly pressing it all the time. You know, while you do, you keep up Moonfires the best you can, but you're just healing out, blah blah blah, and then just throw out those Star Surges whenever you can. So Star Surge is going to trigger your Heart of the Wild. You don't have to swap forms, and if you have those chances, like I proc my Heart of the Wild, I just spam Wrath, and I'm doing healing every time I press that. So just something a little bit to change in terms of your gameplay is just try to keep an eye on that. If you want to make like a big weak warrior or something to press it, you are going to be surprised at how much mana you can regen over the course of this, especially a 2v2 or a 3v3 game, on just pressing Star Surge and doing nothing else. Okay, so if you are playing that, definitely keep an eye on that. And the other thing I want to mention is prosperity. So I want you to understand how this would work. Okay, so again, you have two Swiftmends, but this is a big change for a lot of people because they have never played in a game where that when you press Swiftmend, it consumes your rejuve. Okay, so it consumes whatchamacallit. Let me see the Swiftmend. It actually doesn't even say it on the baseline thing anymore. That's kind of fried. It doesn't actually tell you on the baseline tooltip that it consumes something. Consumes regrowth, wild growth, or a rejuve. Okay, so to my knowledge, does it go in that order? Let me just, so I don't want to give you guys the wrong information here. Okay, so if I overgrowth and then I Swiftmend, okay, it does it in that order. So that is the order that it will take hots. Okay, so if you have an overgrowth, you have every hot on yourself. It will take a regrowth first, a wild growth if there's no regrowth, and it will take a rejuve if nothing else. Okay. The thing you want to try to do now with this is you want to prioritize the heal that you want to keep. You want to always keep rejuve if possible for after your Swiftmends with Soul of the Forest. Okay. If you need to burst heal, by all means use a regrowth, but this is going to be a pretty decent gameplay change for a lot of people to try to manage. I wish I had party frames to help you learn this, but what I typically like to do is, let me see if I can find a target here. Okay, so this is a guy here. So I'm going to hot him up. So you want to try to keep regrowth on yourself. So like this, let's say it's my main target. I have life, maybe a rejuve on him. I'm going to go behind a pillar here, cast a regrowth on myself, so we have regrowth on both targets. I'll Swiftmend him so it consumes the regrowth, and then apply the rejuve. Okay, if I'm playing threes, what I typically like to do is I will keep up Life Bloom on the 2 DPS. I will regrowth myself behind a pillar and consume. You can either consume your own rejuve or your own regrowth. You are kind of wasting the Swiftmend heal there, but you want to try to prioritize the rejuves on the Soul of the Forest. Okay, at least based on the beta gameplay, it's a little bit slower. I rarely ever needed regrowth on Soul of the Forest. Okay, especially getting twice as many of these empowered rejuves are going to make a difference. Okay, because rejuve was baseline buffed into this game,
War Within, so it is going to be a bit of a gameplay change. Sorry, that's probably really confusing the way I phrased it, but basically what I'm saying is do not forget to regrowth yourself, and you can use your own hot to consume it, okay? And try to only consume regrowths, because the regrowth hot isn't that good at all. So look at a 7k tick versus now I put this rejuve on, now it's ticking for, what are those, 135k ticks, right? No? Yeah, 135k ticks. Obviously I have proc freeform there, but you get the point, right? If you are consuming a rejuve, make sure that you want to try to reapply with the rejuve and then throw the regrowths over it, so that you keep those, as many hots on for mastery as possible. So that's going to take some practice, and it took some practice for myself, but just keep an eye on that. Make sure you have the big debuffs add on so you can see all the hots on your targets, and you can try to just practice making sure that your Soul of the Forest, using the proper Soul of the Forest, because you have to think a lot more now, a little bit more than based on Verdant Fusion, because it would just extend it and you can put whatever you want on. But now that you're consuming a hot, if you're playing this, again, you don't have to play this, but if you are playing this way, you want to prioritize always consuming regrowths. Do not consume the rejuves. All right. So that is all I got for y'all today. Hopefully this is something that helped you out. Enjoy the pre-patch. We got about a month of it until the War Within, and I'll give you guys some updated videos and probably some gameplay videos this week on Resto Druid specifically. All right. Have a good day. Peace out.